Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Wednesday, September 10th. So, what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about the biggest things that you need to have in order to complete anything in life, whether it's a repair job, whether it's financial, whether it's, relationships. You got to get back to the basics. So, stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Wednesday, September 10th of 2025. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about just good old common sense and having the ability to reason and look at things and make decisions on it. That is going to carry you through. It's not going to be your mechanical skills. It's not going to be, how well you do the job. It's going to be the ability to learn, the capacity to learn, and the willingness to learn. See, they're all three different things, but they're all three related, and you have to possess all three in order for you to start getting better at it. We talk about having experiences, right? And the good and the bad, and learning from the bad of what not to do again. That's reasoning. Common sense is when you look at something and you say your gut is telling you, or your brain, both, that probably isn't something you want to do. That's common sense saying, stop, take a minute, look the situation all over, and do I really want to proceed down this road? All right. And then lastly, the willingness to learn. If you aren't interested in what is sitting in front of you, you're not going to learn. I don't care. Because here's the deal. You got two different types of smarts. You have book smarts and you have hands-on smarts. All right. And the best of the best is when you have both. The ability to read and reason what you're reading and then to put it into action with your hands. Not a lot of people possess that. They possess one or the other. That doesn't make them less of a mechanic if they're good at their hands and this is something they've done all their life. But when it comes to changes that the different manufacturers are doing, it becomes an issue because they have to wait and learn, whether it's watching a YouTube video or being able to be with someone else that has done it before where they can see it done. I use my son as a prime example, my son and my daughter. My daughter is book smart like me. She can read something, she can absorb it, and it's there. Now, to take it from that point to the hands-on, I have to go back and look to see, okay, what are the torques? And I follow it line by line by line. Okay? My son, he does not like to read. He does not like books. He never has, even as a kid. But you can stick him out there with Claude or any other mechanic, especially he's done really well with a Ford mechanic. Stick him with a person that does know what they're doing. And he will sit there and absorb every bit of knowledge that they're telling him. He will keep quiet, he will watch, and he'll ask a few questions along the way if he isn't quite sure. But tell him to go do the next vehicle the same way we just did this one, he'll knock it out. Me, I'd be back over there asking that qualified mechanic, what did you do that? How did you do this? How did you get this apart? I'd have a bunch of questions where my son would just absorb it. Claude, most of the stuff that he's learned is through absorption of whether it's trial and error, and he's had more errors than good, which is a sign of a good mechanic. If you're making mistakes, That's okay as long as you're learning from them. If you're making mistakes and you're not learning from them and you keep having the same mistakes, that's insanity, right? So how do we know if we have all three things needed to get through life? Well, the ability to reason and learn, the willingness to reason and learn, and then common sense. I'm seeing less common sense. Put in the comments what you're seeing, but I'm seeing a lot less common sense of, live and let live. You don't need to be telling your neighbor how to live their life, especially if you're not doing that great of a job yourself. I know it wasn't my grandfather's saying, but he used to say it a lot. He said, never throw stones from a glass house. And that rang true for me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was like, throw stones at a glass house, It wasn't until I got older and I understood it that, be careful of who you judge and who you criticize. Because I can tell you right now, even every one of you out there watching this video today, and moi, we are not perfect. I am probably the most imperfect person you're ever going to meet. And people love me for my imperfections. That makes me me. But I do have common sense. I do have the ability to reason most of the time. Maybe some of the time. And most of the time, I have a willingness to learn. What I found out with this 62 years on this earth is the more I thought I knew, the more I found out, the less I knew. And it would take 100 lifetimes to find out everything that I want to know. That's what I'm talking about. If you close yourself off to anything like technology or keeping current, you're going to get behind, right? That's our forte at the shop. Claude loves the old gas engines, the 48Ns, 9Ns, Jubilees, the Fergusons, the Internationals, because they were all simplistic. There was only certain things that could go wrong. You had points, condenser, you had the coil. You could do a conversion from 6 to 12 within pretty easy with a GM alternator, one wire excited wire right to the battery to charge the battery with a built-in resistor in the coil. But it was either compression, fire, fuel, and it wasn't that hard to check. And even on the old ones, I have to tell you is, if you watch this channel all the time, you'll know that we do a lot of the old tractors and stuff. And I've had them come in and even blow 0 for compression on all 4 cylinders. And we start off with PB Blaster and just squirt it into each spark plug hole. Put the plug back in hand tight, let it sit for 3 or 4 days, turn the engine over a couple of times so it's kind of lubricating in there, give her a couple more sprays, let it sit. And usually on week 2, we'll put the compression tester back on it. Did it bring it up? And if it brought it up from 0 all the way across the board up into the 50s, we do it again. Same process. And we brought these old engines back where the pistons, the rings on the pistons would just seat. And the PB Blaster, if you let it work, will loosen them up and then they will start to expand. And once they get enough compression to at least fire and even idle, those cylinders, once they start getting warm, will help seat it better. The rings, the wiper rings, and the... But everything in life follows the same logic. Is you have to have the ability to learn, the willingness to learn, and then use good old common sense when it comes to no matter what you approach. Most often the case is with common sense is sitting right on the surface for you to look at. You don't need to dig deep to reason with common sense. Talking about the glass house. Common sense says do not put down your neighbor when you're worse than they are. Right? Because that's being a hypocrite. So you're not using common sense. Or when you approach stuff and you look at it and you have the ability to reason and you're looking at something that maybe in the grocery store and you're looking at maybe a steak. And the steak last year cost $7.99 a pound. And now it's $17.99 a pound. And you go over to the end of the aisle in the refrigeration section, and they have what they call the getting close to expired markdown. And I've seen this too many times at our grocery store. That's why I raise my own beef. But they'll turn around and they'll mark it down and put it down there for, let's say, $15.99 while they're having a sale for that same thing for $10.99. And people will go down to the end and buy the older stuff when they can have fresh even cheaper. Because they get it in their head that it's got to be cheaper down there at the end when they have a double sticker on it. It says marked down. Well, they marked it down, but they also have it on sale. Sales start every Sunday. So that meat they put out Sunday morning in the discounted thing is from the day before when the sale wasn't on, but now the sale's on today, and now you can get it for $10.99. What are you going to do? Common sense says, why should I pay $15.99 for a steak that normally sells for $17.99 when I can buy it for $10.99? That's reasoning. That's common sense. It says, no, just go with the fresh stuff. But yet so many people lack common sense, and they run down to the end and take the older stuff that they have added food dye to make it look red and think they're getting a deal. More than once, I've had to tell people, why are you grabbing that when you can go over there and get fresh cut today for $5 less a pound? And they're like, well, this is a better price. No, it's not. It's $15.99. Follow me. Take them over there. Show them this is the price today, with it being Sunday. This is the new price for the week. Sometimes it just takes good old common sense, right? And when it comes to small engine repair, I mean, that's what we talk most about, right? That and tractor repair. Is where do you see common sense used the most? And it's all about the approach. The first thing you should be doing before you even lay a wrench on that is looking the tractor over. Is it missing anything? What kind of shape is it in? Check the oil. Check the transmission fluid, hydraulic fluid, to see if it's milky, to see if there's water in it. Check the engine oil to see if there's even any oil in the engine before you start cranking on that thing. Pop the gas cap. Take a sniff. Does it smell fresh or does it smell like it's varnish? I mean, we've had them come in that was smelling just like turpentine and would stink the whole shop up. Enough so that Claude would take the fuel tank off from the tractor and set it outside. And that's all you could smell when you walked out the front door is that turpentine. You're using reasoning. You're sitting there and you're looking at it as a whole before you lay a wrench on it and decide what you're going to do. You need to devise a plan of action. What is that plan going to look like? Well, we're first going to do a compression check on each cylinder. If it's a lawnmower, it could be single. It could be a twin if it's a tractor, or it could be a 4 or a 6. So that's common sense. Common sense says do a compression check first, because if you don't have compression, everything else behind it is for naught. Jason, you taught me that is you need to do a compression, fire, air, and fuel. And a lot of times, like you say, do it right on the back of the tailgate of their truck on a generator before you bring it off. And if you got good compression, check to see if the electrical's working, because if not, most times it's not even worth fixing if you're not getting anything coming out. Run it on carb cleaner enough to get power up a skill saw to see if it's even got putting juice across. Yes, you can teach this old dog new tricks. And that's what I'm trying to teach you, is that I leave myself open with the ability to learn. I want to learn new things. I want to find ways that are better ways than the way I'm doing it. I'm open to change. And we have to be, right? What are we sitting on the edge of right now? If you're in New York or California, they're trying to outlaw any gas engine. If these governments had their way, we'd have a battery-operated car, a battery-operated everything. And we don't have enough power to power houses. Yet, they want us to get there. And we're getting more ITAI-based equipment on stuff. You know, the aqua, what do they call it? There's a term for it where the throttle control is in a dial, and it's all computerized on the side of the engine now. That's totally new. That it's kind of like my truck. The more crap you put on it, the more crap can break. And it was kind of a godsend as far as my last truck was an FX4 loaded to the hilt. And with being loaded to the hilt, I started having problems with my parking brake, saying it didn't work or something was wrong with it. And constant beeping in the cab. And then no start of, if you let it sit for a minute, it would start. And then if you went out and hit it, it wouldn't start. It was unreliable. And you just couldn't go out there like the old days with a pair of pliers, some wire, and make it work, right? You got to take it to a Ford garage so they can put it on a computer to figure out what the hell's going on. So with my last trade to my Dodge, which I haven't owned a Dodge in probably 45 years, I looked at this girl and I was looking for something that would be multi-purpose. One, it would be so that if I wanted to throw the kids in the back, grandkids, it seats 6 adults. I wanted something that could pull my gooseneck trailers. I've got my Ford dually, and I don't have any intention on getting rid of it. But I like the idea that if I want to go distance to pick up a piece of equipment that could be a couple 100 miles away, I'd rather take the new truck with the gooseneck than I would the dually. Because I just feel the new truck, I just broke it in at 10,000 miles. And I've only had it for a little over 2 months. That's almost 5,000 miles a month. That's crazy, right? No, 5, because it had 3 on it, so it'd be 3,500. Yeah, 3,500 miles a month. But we do a lot of pickup drop-offs, and then I also do cardiac rehab, which is an hour and 20 minutes every week. I go visit my wife. That's an hour each direction. It adds up. But the key was with this truck is I didn't want a bunch of crap. I didn't want the Longhorn edition that had heated seats, a bunch of other crap that could go wrong in my truck. I mean, if I had my way this time around, I would have had the roll up windows with the hand crank and everything just plain Jane. And with going to the 2500 series, the truck that I've got, it's got a lot of bells and whistles in it, but it's also got only half of the crap that I had on my last truck. Is it a little more, was my last truck a little bit more comfortable to ride in? Yeah. But this one here, I kind of gotten used to it. Plus it sits higher off the ground. You have to take a really good look at what you're approaching and stuff. Do you have the ability to learn? Do you have the willingness? And do you have common sense enough to know when something is right or not right? Common sense will carry you through almost your whole life. If you stay with just strictly looking at a situation, a problem. If you see a problem that says 1 plus 1 equals, we taught this earlier, it doesn't equal 3, guys. It equals 2, right? That's common sense. I mean, look, you have the ability to reason, your willingness to learn, and you're looking at it common sense and saying, no, that's 2. The ability to know right from wrong. Common sense says if you're having a rough time, don't go in and rob a bank. That's extreme, but I'm just trying to give you... Common sense says this is not a good thing to do. This is not a right thing to do. Are we still teaching our kids the basics of common sense? Because it's one of the things that I'm nervous about with AI is the more AI does, the less our children have to do. And that means reasoning, logic, math, English, social studies, because AI will do it all for them. And hopefully that won't happen in my lifetime, because I have no interest in living beyond my years. You know, I can see in the foreseeable future of where they can take everything that's in your brain and make a copy of it, and you could live on indefinitely. Even though the human form is gone, they can put you into an android body and stick your computer of this into that and still have the sense of still being alive. I don't know if I want anything to do with that. So in the comments, give me your thoughts on that. Did you teach your kids, and are you teaching your grandkids? Because I'm very hands-on with my grandkids about common sense. Now, come on, take a look at this situation. Here are the pros, here are the cons. What should you do? Lay it out. Just put it there and make that decision based on common sense. That's how I was taught. My grandfather taught both my brother and I common sense. He thought that was the most important thing to have. Even before the willingness or the ability to learn, you needed common sense. So on that note, you guys have a great Wednesday, and we'll be right back here again tomorrow morning for another edition of Weekday. Enjoy.